You're listening to On Balance with Leland Bittert on NewsNation, America's fastest growing cable news network.
Hey Amazon Prime members, why pay more for groceries? Shop Prime exclusive deals at Amazon Fresh and get 2 of Breyer's ice creams for the price of 1. Get deals on thousands of grocery items and save up to 50% on weekly favorites. Shop Prime exclusive deals at Amazon Fresh. Select varieties.
Weeknights at 8, 7 Central on NewsNation. He's not a candidate.
I'm not asking for your vote.
He's not on the ballot.
This isn't about me.
He's Chris Cuomo, a man of the people.
I report to you and for you.
Giving voice to all America.
Asking the questions, listening to answers, allowing debate.
America, you now have a choice.
Be the author of your own ideas, mano a mano.
Choose Chris Cuomo. Weeknights at 8, 7 Central on NewsNation. To find NewsNation on your screen, go to joinnn.com.
Getting producers impacted by Hurricane Helene the service they need on the local level is a USDA priority. Yet Agriculture Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation Robert Bonney acknowledges some of the challenges in that regard.
Areas, Western North Carolina and others, where it's going to be difficult, either because it's going to be difficult to open our offices or farmers and ranchers and forest owners themselves are going to have trouble getting in because of road closures.
He points to a Farm Service Agency call center available.
Set up to help deal with the demand, 877-508-8364, or farmers can go to our farmers.gov website. You'll see a direct link to the types of programs we're offering in the wake of the hurricane.
Meanwhile, employees at local USDA service centers in Helene's path are dealing with impact issues as well. So USDA personnel are being assigned to provide support and meet expected program demand. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Jews who stand up for what they believe in. You don't get to beat their ass, let alone 5, 6, 10 on one, and then hold up a camera when they try to stop what you're doing to them. Okay? We don't do it like this here. This is wrong. And before you say, oh, they were just playing, you're overreacting, you're playing favorites. You're wrong. Okay? If you change the scenario, okay, it's always wrong. So just flip the scenario. What if it was a bunch of white guys chasing a black guy who was arguing for justice? What if it were a bunch of black guys chasing a black cop after an unnecessary use of force? Okay? Now, if you want to give the keffiyeh cabal, those scarves, a special pass, that's your choice. But if you want to see this continue, you better get ready to see what strength against weakness really looks like. You keep up the aggression, especially in a city like New York, and you're going to find out. And I do have to wonder, why have so few pointed out what I'm saying to you right now? Pro-Palestinian protesters absolutely seem to get lighter treatment, at least on campus and in the media. And what we saw yesterday, just flip the script. I'm serious. Okay? If it were someone from LGBTQ+ or any other minority community, and they were getting chased by a group of people that are inimical to their cause, become part of the national conversation, right? But when it's the Jews, they're not a minority. They don't face an existential threat. They're not targeted because of what and who they are in a way that the majority is not. There should be one standard. And you and I both know there isn't, and that's wrong. Second, something else that's just wrong. I'm heading down to Florida to cover the storm, and I am sorry again that we weren't there on the ground for Helene. And Milton looks to be devastating to already fragile areas, given how many have died and are still displaced and are now especially vulnerable. These are the last people, and this is the worst time to be playing poison politics. People in damaged areas are being victimized again by something completely man-made, vitriol. Misinformation, twisting of truth to make it seem like they're being forgotten or under-resourced by the government in favor of migrants, no less. This is the moment that it all came to a head for me. This is a Fox News reporter.
Right now, without Congress having to come back, what does it say about his values? There's not enough money right now for people in North Carolina who need it. That's not misinformation.
Wait, no, that is your whole premise of the question is misinformation, sir. What you do? Yes, it's misinformation.
There's not enough money to help people.
We're talking about the SBA disaster loan.
That's money for people in North Carolina,
and that's important. And people in North Carolina need that. Wait, this is nothing new.
Look, he's wrong. Now, first, I've often discussed KJP, okay, for, in my opinion, uneven effectiveness in her role. And she didn't handle this the right way. She wound up just walking away. She should have engaged because BS should be blown out of the water, okay? Either he doesn't know which pocket he's talking about or he's conflating the two. I think it's the second. All right, this is a smart guy. I think he's playing to effect because that's his job, is to be the fox provocateur. But this is twisting fact to advance a fiction. The fiction is that Biden doesn't care. The money that the administration sent to Lebanon, okay, and by the way, I thought we were supposed to help them. It's like you cannot win. Everybody has an agenda now. You don't care about Lebanon because Israel's attacking. You send money to Lebanon, now you shouldn't be sending them the money. That money going to Lebanon is money that Congress gave to the State Department. Congress controls the purse strings, okay? The money Congress needs to raise for hurricane disaster relief for the small businesses through the SBA, that's the disaster loan program. It's a completely different pocket. It's a separate fund. And I guess Fox wants a president to be able to undo Congress's role in funding agencies. But they're going to have to wait for Project 2025 to go into full effect for that. Because the president can't just take money that Congress apportioned and say, no, I'm going to use something else for it. It doesn't work like that. Okay? And that's what he seems to be suggesting. Now, if you care about helping disaster areas, good. Worry about Project 2025, written by 140 of Trump's former staffers. And before you say, look, because I don't really care about Project 2025. It's just another bunch of extreme conservative policies. We see policy statements all the time. But don't give me that Trump has nothing to do with it. 140 of his people worked on it. Oh, yeah, but he's never heard of it. Well, maybe because he doesn't like to read. But his website has many similar plans to shrink government, in part by eliminating relief, as Project 2025 attempts to by ridding the disaster loan program entirely. So the Fox guy is saying, why aren't you giving it more money? Project 2025, which is a creature of what his network backs, which is the conservative movement, wants to get rid of it entirely. Don't you see the game? Isn't it nauseating? Especially when you're dealing with victimizing people with this play of the game, who are already in a storm-ravaged area. The last thing they need is this kind of anxiety. That's what's going on. You want to cut funding? Fine. But you can't be saying you got to give money and you want to cut it at the same time. There is still right and wrong. And it is wrong to victimize, those who warrant the best of us right now, especially now, with another potentially life-changing storm about to hit. The job is to expose the game. And those are two ugly and obvious incidents. Food for your consideration. Now, Hurricane Milton. We're going tomorrow. It's been upgraded again. Not unusual. Gathering energies. A weird storm. Small, tight storm. Spinning really fast, which means it changes fast. So it went up from 4 to 5, back 5 to 4. Now it's back up to 5. We don't know what happens until it happens. The predictions are very dire, especially given that it's going to hit that west coast of Florida again, which is already saturated and beat up. So let's discuss the state of play in this country, storm and political storm. Florida Democrat member of Congress, Jared Moskowitz, also the former emergency management director in the state under Governor DeSantis, by the way. Good to see you.
Good to be with you, Chris.
Let me get a twofer with you, if you don't mind, Congressman. First of all, what do people need to know who are in that area, the level of evacuation, the opportunity to still get out? What do you want people to know?
Yeah, I think there's two things that's important. One, if you live in the flood zone that they're evacuating, whether it's A, B, or C, and they have evacuated those flood zones, you should leave. You should leave. If you didn't learn your lesson in Ian and you didn't learn your lesson in Helene, you should leave. You cannot survive the storm surge that is coming your way. It is about saving your life. I know traffic is inconvenient, but it is about saving your life. And you don't have to go hundreds of miles. You just got to go tens of miles inland. Go to a shelter, go to a friend's house, but get away if you're in those zones. Listen to your local emergency management director. Listen to Kevin Guthrie, the director of emergency management. Listen to the folks telling you to leave. That's number one. Number two is stop paying attention to exactly where this thing is going. This thing is wobbled all over the place. We saw it change in Ian. People thought that was going to be a Tampa storm, and it went south of Tampa. The same thing may happen here. So from Tampa to Collier County, right, from Tampa to Naples, pay attention. 60 or 70 miles here will make a big difference in that wobble. So those are the two things I think people should pay attention to, Chris.
Second point. Of course, you're a Democrat. Of course, you're a member of the House, but you're a guy from Florida, and these are your people. Do you believe that people who are affected by Helene have been shortchanged by the Biden administration, who wants to give money for them to other places? Is that a fair criticism?
No, there's zero evidence of that. Okay. Like, first of all, if there isn't money available, that's on Congress. Okay. It was Congress who decided not to fund FEMA's DRF, the Disaster Relief Fund. I filed a bill, okay, and it didn't go anywhere. Now, the Speaker did put $10 billion forward in the first CR, but that failed. His political CR, which he tied to nonsense. When he came back with a clean CR, the Speaker is the one who stripped the $10 billion away from FEMA. Instead, what he did was he said, hey, FEMA, you can draw down your 2025 budget money early. Well, the problem is FEMA already had an $8 billion backlog. So take $8 billion out of that 20. And now you have an unprecedented disaster in Hurricane Helene, 5-state disaster. And now you have a Category 5 storm coming towards Florida. So to be clear, if there is a funding issue with SBA and FEMA, it is on Congress. And Congress knew about both of these things before they went on break.
Why isn't it that Biden could have given the money to these folks that he gave to migrants or to Lebanon or to anything else that's not these people that Americans may not like?
These are all different pots of money, Chris. I mean, why aren't we taking it from the commerce budget? Why aren't we taking it from FAA? You can't do those sort of things. It comes from the budget that you fund. This is not like, oh, we have two bank accounts. Why don't I just go on Bank of America and hit the transfer button? That's not how it works in government. There are lines of appropriation that then the executive branch has to follow. If there isn't money, and by the way, there is money available for both Helene and for Milton. They are drawing down FEMA the 2025 budget. There won't be money soon because they will have spent all of that. But if there isn't money, it's on Congress. It's on nobody else.
Gotcha. Last thing. Doesn't it seem weird that you get to chase Jews through the streets of New York because they hold up an Israeli flag and nobody really gets pissed off about it? Can you imagine if a pack, especially of light-skinned Jews, chased a bunch of brown kids down the street who were wearing keffiyehs and holding a Palestinian flag? Can you imagine how you would be getting beaten over the head about what your people were doing in this screwed up world of taking sides that we're in right now? How do you see it? You heard what I think. Yeah,
well, look, Jews are constantly told, and we hear this all the time, you can be anti-Israel without being anti-Semitic. And I would suggest that you can. You can criticize a government of any country, and you can criticize Israel without being anti-Semitic. The problem is these people just aren't. They are anti-Semitic. Okay, when those protests were going on college campuses, okay, and there were people outside saying, kill the Jews, kill the Zionists, go back to Poland, I didn't see a single student say, hey, I'm here to fight for the Palestinians, right, for humanitarian rights. I don't want to kill anyone. I'm not with these people. Not a single. You won't find a single video of a single student saying, I'm here to fight for the Palestinians. But the folks saying, go back to Poland, not with me. You won't see it. So that's why this is happening.
But imagine if there were a bunch of guys that look like you, with names like you, and standing in the middle
every Jewish family
was a guy with a keffiyeh on with a bloody nose. Well, what do you think would happen?
Every Jewish family knew when the protests on college campuses going on and they were singling out a Jewish kid with a Jewish star, they didn't know it was his Israeli position. He was just Jewish. Every Jewish family knew if it was a bunch of white students wearing hoods, it wouldn't have gotten past lunchtime on the first day. They knew if they were circling a black kid and keeping them from going to class, it wouldn't have gotten past lunchtime on the first day. If they were doing it to a gay student, it wouldn't have gotten past lunchtime on the first day. Every Jewish family knew that. And they knew the double, triple, quadruple standard that we have lived for thousands of years was on full display at Columbia.
Is it fair to push back and say, yeah, you know why? Because you're too strong. Because Israel is David and Goliath. You beat everybody's ass every time that they exercise their anti-Semitism or their desire to move the boundary lines or remove your statehood. You destroy everybody. So you are David and Goliath. So there's a double standard. Is that a fair pushback?
No, I think your analysis earlier was true. I don't look like a minority. I don't fit into the minority bubble, right? There's this there's this thing out there like all Jews are well off, right? They're all upper rich class, right? And, I'm a white male, I'm privileged, right? And so that goes into this other narrative that we're not a minority. We don't deserve minority protection. Okay. And that's why.
You're not white. Not yet. I thought that we had graduated together. One of the last jokes that my father told, and you know what a fan he was of Judaism and Jews. My adoptive godfather was a Lubavitcher Rebbe. One of the last jokes he ever told, Congressman, was he heard a line in a story about me that I'm sure was very flattering that said that I was a function of white privilege and how I had gotten to my position on television. And he went, wait a minute. Hot damn. Christopher made it. We're white. And for that generation of ethnics, that was the dream, to be just seen as other white people. And we thought the Jews had graduated with the Italians and we had moved from ethnics to now. It's not true. You're still Jews. And you may look like the privileged majority, but you're targeted and you don't get the protection of being a minority. You get it both ways.
Yeah, what a privilege, Chris. My grandmother and her sister were put into a rail car in Berlin, okay, and shipped off to live in another country during the Holocaust while her parents were killed in Auschwitz. What a privilege that was for the Jewish people. What a privilege it is for Jewish families to have to figure out where to send their kids to college, where it's safe. What a privilege.
I hear you. And that's why there is an importance, there is a need, I believe there is a requirement for people to call it for what it is and to be allies to the cause of freedom and justice as we are for every minority group. And you deserve that protection as well. And you will certainly get it on my watch at NewsNation. I promise you that. Congressman, stay safe down there. I'll be there tomorrow. I'll be in touch if I can help you get out the message, all right?
Thanks, Chris. You too.
And if I get in trouble, I may call you for help. So be ready. Answer the phone when you hear from me. Take care. All right. Now, I want to end on a little levity because this is angry and it's ugly and it's frightening to a lot of people. And that's the reality, too. Now, speaking of those descriptors, that's Florida also in a different way. So let's do a whip of how we're getting prepared to tell the story the right way down there and get help to people who need it if we can help as well. It's part of our job. NewsNation senior correspondent Brian Enton, and County Sheriff Chad Chronister, okay? And a division group supervisor for FEMA, Scott Dean, a very good friend of mine. We've spent a lot of time on the ground together, and we may again. Brian, first, what is the vibe down there of how people are dealing with pre-existing vulnerability given what's coming their way?
Well, there is a vulnerability, Chris, and you can see it right behind me after Helene a couple of weeks ago. I mean, all of this debris is still out here on the streets on the West Coast. Block after block look like this. All the furniture and clothes and drywall and everything you can think of is just out here on the road. So you can imagine now with Milton set to hit this area where we're standing with, 120, 130 mile per hour winds, maybe more. What's going to happen to all this stuff? The storm surge where I'm standing expected to come back to my chest. That's what it did last time. All these people spent all this time cleaning up for the last week. And this stuff is it's going to go everywhere. It's going to be a mess.
Sheriff, what are your big concerns?
Yes, same thing. Storm surge. Our drainage systems, our sewage systems are already at max capacity. We're going to get 5 to 10 inches of rain on top of the storm surge. Let's add 100 mile per hour winds on top of that. So we're going to have a lot of trees down, and that creates a safety concern with electrocution, power outage. And I have to be honest with you, you brought it up several times. We're already battered. We're already beaten. And here comes another storm as we're still trying to heal and recover. Even the 4,000 members here at the sheriff's office who have been working hard to patrol the evacuation zones to keep people from looting. And now they're right back out helping the evacuations. And then we're going to spin them right back into action with search and rescue.
Well, look, we're on our way down. You let me through so I can tell this story, and I'll make sure that we are an amplifier for the messages the community needs to hear. And thank you in advance for everything you're doing for your people. You're the angels among us, and you've proven it once again. Brother Dean, it's been a minute,
yes, sir.
But we're going to be reunited, it looks like, down there. I just texted you my new number. so that we're on the same page. You guys are exhausted and you're beat up from what you've already been doing. What are you preparing for now, and do you have what you need?
Yeah, the task force is ready to go. All the task forces in the state of Florida are ready to go. The other state resources that are coming in are good to go. And then the federal system obviously is giving us assistance too with their urban search and rescue teams. We just really urge all those that are in those those that are there, and we can do our job. So we really...
We're already having signal troubles. We haven't even had the storm yet. So I will call you when I'm on the ground tomorrow. So I know where you're going to be. You know where I'm going to be, so I can help tell the story of the efforts that are unfortunately going to be inevitable. I'll tell you one thing. Florida, whether it's the sheriff and his people, but these task force guys, I'm telling you at home, you people who watch storm coverage, Florida has the best of the best. These guys run around. They run all around the country. They run all around the world, wherever they're needed. They have the best there, but they're also up against the worst. Gentlemen, I wish you all safety and safe passage through this. Brian Enton, you're the best for being on location. I'll talk to you in the morning. I'll talk to you all soon. Take care. 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Got to come together in times of need, man. That's why we're here. We're here to help one another. That's why I call guys I barely know brother, because we're all related. It's a little weird when I call sister, right? But I do what I can. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, indicted. Okay. Charged with what? Federal corruption, basically. Do they have the proof? We don't know. But people around him keep dropping. 7 senior officials have fired or been resigned. Today, the first person close to Adams arrested and charged for witness tampering and trying to conceal evidence. Does he have dirt on the boss? Is this a case changer? Insight next. New York City Mayor Eric Adams was indicted. Federal corruption charges. 7 officials in his inner circle, like real people, all right? Like the highest we've really ever seen in a New York City kind of quasi-government, maybe police, probably not, type investigation. The commissioner of police, you know, FBI raids, he's gone. I mean, this is unusual stuff, okay? Really unprecedented. And today, there was another real heightening development. The FBI arrested a close aide to the mayor, Mohammed Bahi, okay? Federal witness tampering charges, destruction of evidence charges. What does that mean to the rest of us? It means this is like cover-up type allegations, okay? So Bahi is what? He's the first aide to the mayor to face charges in the federal corruption probe. Now, when I say aide, that's what he is. He's a political aide, okay? So what does the mayor do with this? He says exactly what I already told you. Listen.
Okay, listen, I am going to serve my term and run for re-election. And those who are supporters, and I think when both sides of this come out, people are going to have a second look at this entire event that's taking place around me.
And yes, they're real charges. The maximum sentence would be 20 years in prison. That's far-fetched. Now, the question is, does the guy have stuff on Adams? But this whole idea that, oh, there's a lot of smoke, so there must be fire, Adams should go, I say no. Here is the real test, okay? Because of what our Constitution is and what we're supposed to be about is law and order, all right? Smoke, fire, okay. Beyond a reasonable doubt that the smoke can be nothing else but fire. It's not a smoking engine. It's not something that you thought was fire but actually isn't, or that just goes out very quickly. That's the test. And we are not near that level yet, but I get it. Everybody gets it. It looks bad. Let's talk about why. Former FBI Special Agent Stuart Kaplan and New York City criminal defense attorney Paul Callan. Paul, on the legal quasi-political side, okay, because you know both, are you surprised at that early rush of calls that Adams needed to get out? And why do you believe they've quieted?
Well, I'm not surprised because you have a situation where a half a dozen of his top aides have resigned. Now, I can't remember a time politically that I've seen that happen, going back to as far as really as Watergate, when, of course, half the Department of Justice was threatening to resign on Nixon. The first deputy mayor, the second deputy mayor, police commissioners out, fire commissioners out. Now, I mean, maybe this is not entirely related to the criminal investigation. A lot of those people have not been named by the prosecutor in any way, shape, or form. Right. But when somebody around the top guy, when they're all abandoning ship, it kind of says something that maybe there is some fire under that smoke. And I think
it could be
in the political system.
Could be you picked bad guys. Could be you picked bad guys. Could be that they're scared of what may else be going on and they're worried about their own future. I'm just saying it's so dicey, and there's no need to get it wrong. Just let it play out. Stu, in terms of how it plays out, the good analysis I've seen is, why would this guy be messing with witnesses or messing with evidence if he's not even being charged for anything related to those things? It must have something to do with Adams. Explain.
Well, first of all, Chris, if you remember when you had me on after the unsealing of the indictment, I told you that this was the first of several shoes that were going to drop. And there is no doubt, and you can double down on our bet, there is going to be some additional shoes that are going to continue to fall. This individual, Bahi, was loyal to the mayor, and there's no doubt that he was taking direction from the mayor to try to quell those potential loose ends, because they were aware that certain witnesses had been served grand jury subpoenas. And so at the behest of the mayor, because he's obviously dead center as being the focus of this investigation, he went and tried to get them to lie for the benefit of the mayor. Now, Chris, you seem to be convinced that you don't believe that there's fire, that even though there's a lot of smoke. Let me tell you, if you take a look at the 57-page indictment that was unsealed 2 weeks ago, one thing that you cannot dismiss is Mayor Adams, his personal cell phone had a 4-digit passcode. When he knew that the FBI was after him and was going to execute their search warrant, he changed that to a 6-digit code. When they executed the search warrant and retrieved his cell phone, they asked him, Mayor, can you give us the 6-digit code? You know what he said? I can't remember what that 6-digit code was. That's all you need to know with respect to any person that either is believable or not. Now, you can say not. I know that this investigation has been going on since 2021. As I've said to you, the Southern District of New York is at the top of the top as far as the United States Attorney's Office throughout the country. They have him dead to right. And here's what's going to happen. 2 choices, Chris, and we'll double down on our bet.
Stu, then hold on. Just tell me this and then end it the way you want to. Why would Adams be so vehement that he didn't do this if he was going to have to be looking for a deal at some point? Why would he do that? Because he knows he's making it less likely that Williams gives him one. Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney. Go ahead.
Well, there are two things that are going to happen. He's going to negotiate a plea, and if he doesn't negotiate a plea within the next 2 weeks, I will double down. There will be a superseding indictment for money laundering counts with respect to him evading those proceeds that were paid to him by straw donors. That's definitely going to happen, as well as an obstruction of justice charge is going to be part of that superseding indictment. What I will anticipate is that Mayor Adams' lawyers are negotiating a potential plea. And the reason why they left Bahi in place is a very sophisticated investigative technique, is to see how this thing plays out after the mayor's indictment was unsealed. And they have left other people in play that are being very helpful to the United States Attorney's Office. So I will say the mayor will not live out his, meaning he will not, I believe, be able to run again for mayor. And I will see a plea negotiated, and that's the way this case is going to end.
Well, if his lawyers want to make a plea, as we all know, and I've heard Brother Callen discuss many times, they're going to tell him to shut up then, because the attorneys for him, but also the attorneys for the government, hear what he says, and they don't like to make deals when people are saying that they didn't do anything wrong. So we'll watch it play out. Stu, I can't say you don't know what you're talking about because you keep being right. Paul Callen, thank you very much for your insights, as always. To be continued. To be continued. I'm a skeptic. That's the job. 4 minutes, 30 seconds up next. When I was at the DNC a couple of months ago, I was also a skeptic that you are going to do anything to lock down on corporations when they're funding your convention. Okay? That's true at the DNC. It's true at the RNC. In fact, they almost charge the same amounts and have many of the same people in the same boxes looking down and laughing at what they hear on the floor. I wanted to expose that hypocrisy. Now, a former Democratic campaign fundraiser has gone viral on TikTok for calling out politicians for taking billions from donors and celebrities. Why is she making this point? And insight on the state of play from our mega donor mentor. Next.
I thought I was part of the party that fought for the underdog. How can we ever say that we're going to fight corporate power with donors and corporations that we're literally looking down on the people below from above? That's what Chris Cuomo said, and he's absolutely right.
Strangled by the money reality in our politics. Those suites start at $500,000. That's the game. You pay to play. Those boxes are filled with the same people that they say they're going to regulate. They are literally looking down on the faithful. And each side is so blind to its own sense of advantage that when I said that, all the Democrats didn't hear anything I said about the RNC because they were at the DNC, right? So they were only worried about that. And they said, oh, he took the red pill. That's how crazy it is that they don't even want to admit the obvious. They just want to pretend that you're the problem. So why do we expose it? Because that's the job at NewsNation. And nobody knows that I'm right more than those who work on campaigns. Like I've been around my whole life. Enter Evan Barker, former Democratic campaign fundraiser, volunteered at the DNC, sat in those suites I told you about, and says she saw exactly what is obvious to everybody. She was so disillusioned, in fact, she left the party and has since been calling out the hypocrisy much better than I ever could, by the way, which is why she has gone viral with millions and millions of views on TikTok. Her most recent op-ed in Newsweek titled, I worked for Democrats for years, billionaires have unfettered influence. Former Democratic campaign fundraiser Evan Barker joins me now, along with mentor and friend of show and mega donor himself, John Morgan, okay? Spent years working with candidates, mostly Democrats, but he works where his interests lie. Thank you both. Evan, why are you biting on my material, Evan? Why are you one-upping me? Why? You couldn't just let me have a little bit of space, right? Couldn't let me get one thing right. No, tell people what the reality is from someone who worked in it.
Yeah, I just want to say this is amazing to be here. It really feels like it's a journey that's coming full circle. You know, you were a big inspiration behind the viral TikTok video that I posted. As you've already stated, I've worked in Democratic politics a long time, mostly for U.S. Senate and House candidates, doing fundraising for them. And, you know, for the last couple of years, I've started to become disillusioned with the party. Obviously, it doesn't help when you are working in the fundraising part of campaigns. And I went to the DNC hoping to feel re-inspired. I really, really did. And instead, while I was there, I felt sad because I saw a candidate that was picked not by the people, but by the donors. And everyone just seemed to be happily going along with it. And yes, I did go up to those suites. It was a part of my volunteer job. And I was mind blown to see the corporate suites, the corporate media suites, and the corporations and the donor suites just all next to each other. You know, when you see that reality in person, it really spells it all out for you.
You know, Brother Morgan, what Evan is pointing to is why people sometimes refer to the uniparty. That at the end of the day, yeah, you got the Democrats, you got the Republicans, they fight with each other, but at the end of the day, it's all about the money and they're hitting the same pockets. Did you live that as a reality yourself?
Yeah, I did. But look, here's the bottom line. At the end of the day, we can point fingers at people, but we really need to point fingers at Citizens United. When Citizens United became the law of the land, that means there was unfettered access and unlimited money. It seemed it was going to benefit the Republicans. I think if Democrats could roll back Citizens United, they still would. But here's the deal, Chris. If you're going to play the game and somebody gets to have 5 players, are you going to play with 3 when you could play with 5? I don't think so. So I believe that Citizens United has forced this situation, and now it's not just bundlers. I was a big shot because I was a bundler. A bundler's not a big shot anymore. A bundler is a little shot. And so that's just the reality of where we live today.
Hey, John, quick while I have you. You think Harris wins?
I thought she was going to win, but I'll tell you, I'm a little bit worried. I think it's getting close, but she's had a great advantage. Look, she never had to run. She never had to take a position. She didn't take many votes, which is great because there's no record. And that's why she's been so slow to do interviews, because if you're winning, why risk it? I think she still will, but it's going to be very, very iffy. It's all going to come down to Pennsylvania. If she loses, what I believe they're going to say, she should have picked Josh Shapiro. But on the other hand, she's already having trouble with Michigan, and Josh would have been a big problem with her in Michigan. So she had a dream deal. Look, Chris, at the end of the day, this election is going to be this. 75% of all Americans will be voting holding their nose. It's not who we're for the most. It's who we hate the least. That's
perfect segue, and thank you. This is why I love you. You make everything better, Morgan. I swear, except for politics, where you spread money all over it for years. But Evan, his point is the perfect segue. They're holding their nose because it's all about the money. And it's a battle to the bottom of which side is worse and who can put out more negative campaign ads. And you know it because you worked in it, and he knows because he worked through it, and I sat there living through it for many, many years. And the parties, no one has high ground. So what are you going to do about it? You know the truth. You're smart as hell. You got tons of opportunity. What are you going to do to make it better?
I mean, the thing about it, Chris, is that it is a system issue, right? This issue does exist on both sides. But I will say that my disappointment with the Democratic Party in particular lies in the fact that we've known for a very long time that the Republicans have been the party of big business. That's who they've always been. You know, they've been very clear and transparent about that. But Democrats are supposed to be the party of the working class. They're supposed to be the party of the little guy. They're supposed to be the party of labor. And, you know, the things that they've done the last couple of years, breaking the railroad strike, for instance, and just generally turning their backs away from working class people in this country in places like Pennsylvania and places like Missouri, where I am from, you know, is ultimately the main problem. And as I laid out in my second op-ed, it's largely due in part to the influence by the donors over the the Democrats. So I'm just more disappointed.
You are right. They say they're better. But you're talking about my father's Democratic Party, not the one now. Time to be an independent, Evan. That's what we tell everybody at NewsNation. Be a critical thinking independent. Forget the parties. Thank you very much for your insights and your articulate demonstration and really presentation of them. I'm glad it's getting the reception it deserves it. And Brother Morgan, to be continued throughout the duration of this election and beyond. Thank you for the insight as always. Appreciate you. 3 minutes, 45 seconds. Okay. The UFO story is not about little green men for me. I'm open. Who is arrogant enough to believe that we're the only life anywhere in this universe that's bigger and bigger all the time? That's not my issue. My issue is the government knows things, spends money on things, and won't tell us. It's not me saying it. Another whistleblower is saying exactly that. Investigative journalist, UFO expert, transparency expert, Jeremy Corbell says, just you wait. This is not a long segment because we don't know enough yet, but it's time to get re-engaged, okay? Does the government have information and doesn't share it? An explosive new report by independent journalist, friend of show, Michael Schellenberger, threatens to crack the truth about what the government has been hiding. Schellenberger says he can confirm a government whistleblower revealed the Pentagon is illegally hiding a secret UFO collection program. Investigative journalist Jeremy Corbell says this confirms everything he's been saying for years, and it's only the tip of the iceberg. Joins me now. Not a long segment, because Jeremy, you warned me. We don't know yet. Paint within the lines, you said. And I never did that well. It's why the nuns beat me. So what do you want people to know about what the right questions are to be asking right now?
That's great. So, yeah, shout out to journalist Michael Schellenberger, because his reporting is accurate, particularly in exposing the Immaculate Constellation. It's a UAP reconnaissance program. I can affirm this 100%. It is an unacknowledged, up until, hours ago, it was and is an unacknowledged special access program, even higher than a special access program. Its purpose was to detect, quarantine, and transfer UAP, dealing with incursions, meaning air, land, sea, all domain, with what we call ubiquitous technological surveillance. It's a very impressive program. And up until this day, if I had said those words on the phone, if I had typed those words, if anybody had, there was mandatory surveillance for it. So I'm really happy, and I'm really glad that that has come out to the public. And there's a lot more to learn about this program and others directly from people involved.
Give me some of the right questions.
Okay, some of the right questions. Look, we have whistleblowers who are coming forward, hopefully on November 13th, which is the next set of congressional hearings on UAP, which I have personally walked people into members' offices for private meetings so they could see eye to eye and they could meet and they could know what the potential for informing the American public is about this cover-up. This is about crimes of secrecy. It's about obfuscating the legal and necessary transparency to the American public, as well as just to the oversight and accountability.
Jeremy Corbell, I appreciate the tutelage, I appreciate the rigor, and I appreciate the presence. You tell me when it is time to tell the next chapter of this story, and you have the time and the opportunity as it serves. Thank you very much for teeing this up for us.
It will be very soon. November 13th is going to be very important.
I'm going to go cover a natural storm, and then we'll have a man-made storm right after it, and I'll be there for both. All right, Jeremy Corbell.
Thank you for covering this, Chris. Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back. Yes, we're going to the hurricane tomorrow. Why? Because the people down there deserve the attention, and that's the job. I should have been there for Helene. Shame on me. Try not to make the same mistake twice. Where am I going? I don't know. I know that they got me a very early flight. I get down there, we start driving in the truck, and then we wait. We try to get as close to where you don't want to be as possible. I'll see you then. Dan Abrams next.